My name is Ryan Roslansky. I'm here with Tomer Cohen, and unlike a lot of our other colleagues that you guys have heard from today, Tomer and I actually, look at a lot different side of the business. None of the products that we build or businesses we look after have anything to do with users, with companies paying money to LinkedIn or with users actually, building any kind of monetization products. Our jobs are literally to get hundreds of millions of people to use LinkedIn on a daily basis. We call that our consumer story, and that's what we're going to talk about today. How LinkedIn approaches the consumer story, our consumer marketplace, and more importantly, how at the end of the day that actually matters to you. So, I'm sure you've seen this today, but LinkedIn's mission statement, two parts of it: connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. The first part of the mission statement I want to pause on really quickly because this is what LinkedIn's homepage looked like when we first started the company. It literally had two actions that you could take. You could create a profile and you could connect to people. We always thought that if we were able to really get after these two use cases for LinkedIn, it would give us a foundation to do a lot of great things moving forward. And now with over 238 million members, with 2 joining every second, it's really about the second part of this mission statement now, which is how do we make all these people on LinkedIn more productive and successful? Not when you're just trying to find a job, not when you're just trying to update your profile, but in your everyday professional life. And that's what LinkedIn is focusing dramatically on right now. That's why our homepage today looks a lot more like this. A lot more content flowing through the stream, what your network is saying, news, etc. LinkedIn wants to become that place that people go to every day to start their morning professionally, to get the news and insights and information they need to be better professionals.
To challenge ourselves.
Connect to that place from which everything is possible. Thank you.
To show the world what we can do. And there's a place where opportunity comes alive. Where people take on new roles and expand their professional growth. Where we not only reach out to connect with new people, but also new ideas, knowledge, and the things that matter to us. Where we join the conversation, ask questions, and offer advice. A place where we discover inspiration.
I've spent a lifetime creating things. In the end, it's down to individuals.
We share it. We talk about it. We take it with us. We grow it. This drives our success. We learn more. We get better. And people recognize it. Every day can be an opportunity to discover something new, to find inspiration, and to share. In the place where professionals exchange insights that help you accomplish more. The first step starts with you.
So as you can see, LinkedIn is really starting to make a move towards becoming the place where people go to be informed, educated, and inspired through the use of content. You've probably noticed LinkedIn making a lot of moves in content lately. I'm going to dive quickly into our content marketplace and how we think about it in 4 quick areas. Publishing content on LinkedIn, getting the content to the right people, how we think about mobile, and how companies play in the space. Unlike, or a lot like companies like Netflix, one thing that LinkedIn has learned recently is the fact that original content is magnetic. About a year ago, we asked about 300 of the most influential people in business to join the LinkedIn platform to contribute their knowledge, wisdom, and insights to other members on LinkedIn. And it's been a huge success for LinkedIn. People like Richard Branson, who are coming to the LinkedIn platform to talk about things like, how to start a successful business. You can see this post here in the top left corner has been viewed over 1 million times with over 11,000 comments. People have this great ability to come to LinkedIn now and actually converse and hear from some of these thought leaders. Or someone like a Bill Gates, who when he decided he wanted to talk about some things that he's learned from Warren Buffett, 2 pretty legit people, he turned to the LinkedIn platform. This post has been viewed over 1.7 million times with 4,000 comments. Someone who was in the news today, Angela Arntz, who was previously, as of today, the CEO of Burberry, but is now taking on a senior VP role of Apple's retail department. Use the LinkedIn platform to talk about how she thinks that energy transforms companies and communities. Not energy like the power company, but literally the energy within employees and how infectious that can be when spread quickly throughout a company. But not only do we have these high-level kind of, world-renowned CEOs on the platform, we've got these very functional things as well. Someone like Lou Adler, who talks about the most important interview question of all time, which has been viewed over 1 million times on the platform. Even someone like celebrity chef Marcus Samuelsson. We have a ton of people on LinkedIn who are actually in the restaurant and food and beverage industry. He talks about things like how to run successful businesses, how to run successful restaurants, how to think about time management and scalability in the restaurant industry. It's great content from someone who's really elevated their game in the space. There's nearly 1 million real estate professionals on LinkedIn, so Heather Elias turns to LinkedIn from National Association of Realtors to talk about a variety of real estate issues, from social media to home ownership. Toby Cosgrove, who's the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the forward-thinking institutions in the healthcare space, turns to LinkedIn to reach nearly 1 million healthcare professionals as well. And while his latest post on healthcare consolidation only has 47,000 views, this is literally 47,000 views of the most prominent people in the medical profession who are on LinkedIn. Even someone like Herm Greenberg, who's a CNBC anchor on Street.com as well, when he has something to say professionally, turns to LinkedIn in order to say it. And the reason is this. The kind of quality and level of conversation that these folks are seeing on LinkedIn is paramount to anything else they're seeing anywhere else online. And the reason for that is simple. When you read something else elsewhere online, you scroll down to that comment section below, who knows what you're going to get? You can get a lot of spam or trolling, etc. But when you make a comment on LinkedIn, you are literally making it as your professional identity. I'm making it as Ryan Roslansky, the head of content at LinkedIn. So I know when I make that comment, my boss could see it, my coworkers could see it, recruiters could see it, etc., which really levels the game and levels the quality of comments that we're seeing across the platform. So people are turning to LinkedIn to be that place where they post this type of content. But not only has the influencer platform been big for us, we turn to LinkedIn profiles as well. We really want users to be able to showcase their skills and identity through the use of content as well. So we just recently launched the ability for folks to add rich media content to their profiles. An example, if you're a creative director, your job is to design, campaigns, ads, etc. You can type that in as text on your profile, or you can literally now showcase what it is that you've done and what you've created. If you're a mobile engineer, for example, here's what I've built, but actually here's the code that I used to write those things, and here's some of the apps that I've created. If you're a recent grad, what do I put on my LinkedIn profile? You can talk about some of the things you've done, your thesis, internships, etc., in really rich content visual form. If you're an architect, sure, you might say on your profile that you design buildings and communities, but you can actually showcase those things now as well. Makes the profile so much more rich and engaging via the use of content, and people are, millions of users on LinkedIn are starting to do this to the LinkedIn profiles. Beyond the profile, we have a community called LinkedIn Groups with over 2 million groups on LinkedIn. Nearly 200 conversations are started every minute across this platform. There's an example of our digital animation group with, literally one of the, most important communities in the digital animation, profession by far. We have groups like the Harvard Business Review with over 400,000 people who are discussing a lot of high-level issues about business and strategy. And we have groups like literally the Trucking and Logistics group, where there are 37,000 truckers on LinkedIn who are leveraging this group to communicate about various things like trucking routes or, shipping timelines or best strategies, etc. So it's pretty compelling. Beyond groups, we actually own a company called SlideShare as well, which I'm extremely excited about. SlideShare is the largest collection of presentations online, over 10 million of them, with 62 million people that are visiting SlideShare on a monthly basis. Slides like on the left, HubSpot uploaded their culture code, how their company functions, with literally 948,000 views to date. Or even on the right, a couple of designers uploaded a deck about how to get client feedback, which has been viewed over 400,000 times. If you have something to say or want to learn something professionally, this is a phenomenal platform for people to be using. So now we've got all this content flowing in, the influencer posts, the profile stuff, the 200 discussions every minute in groups, all the SlideShare stuff. The question is, what is LinkedIn's secret sauce to actually get this stuff in front of the right people? We literally believe that the second part of our content strategy is this notion that one size does not fit all. If you were to pick up a New York Times, today, the paper version, everyone is going to see the exact same thing. Well, we don't necessarily have a problem with that and everyone getting high-level news. We definitely think that we can be doing better, which is why on LinkedIn, when you log in with your profile, we know who you are. If you're a startup exec, you're going to get content that is tailored to you about that specifically. If you're a finance exec, we're going to find those log-tail blogs and pieces of content that are important to you to be doing your job better. Who you are derives the content you receive, and this is really key to what LinkedIn is going to be doing moving forward. Beyond that, we actually catalog all this content into a variety of things that we call channels. These channels are collections of content. You can follow these and get that content right back to you as well. These are things like customer service or hiring or marketing or technology, the economy, et cetera. One of these that we did recently was actually from a group of influencers. We asked them to all create a channel on how they hire. So these are some of the most legit people in business who log on a LinkedIn platform to write about how they think about hiring. People like Beth Comstock, the CMO at GE, who talks about the fact that she believes there are 4 types of people that make a successful team. So when she's hiring you, she thinks about what type of person you are and is that going to fit within the team that she needs. President and CEO of Charles Schwab, who literally thinks that, look, if I have your LinkedIn profile, I know what you've done, but if I really want to know if this is going to work out as a relationship, we're going to lunch. That's the time that we figure out whether or not we're going to be able to work well together. Or Charlie Collier, the president of AMC, literally the guy responsible for Breaking Bad, turns to LinkedIn to talk about professional knowledge and insight. In this case, he's talking about how when he's interviewing you, he's not necessarily interviewing you for the job you think you're getting, but 3 years down the line, he's trying to think about what you will evolve into and will you fit into that role. So if you think about it, across LinkedIn, we've got a ton of content coming in. We're categorizing it in a variety of ways to get in front of the right people. What we've learned is the most important thing that we're focusing on as a company right now is the fact that, like many of us in this room right now, we're turning towards our phone in order to consume this content. And to talk a little bit more about our mobile strategy, I want to turn this over to Tomer Cohen, who leads up mobile for LinkedIn, and talk about how we're thinking about mobile.
Thanks, Ryan. So we all have a very special relationship with our phones. I'm actually sure that many of you will experience separation anxiety if I would suggest taking away your phones for just 2 hours. By now, our phones are becoming just another organ in our body, and in many ways, it's our new best friend. When you think about how mobile is changing your lives, you actually want to see how mobile is actually changing the entire world. So mobile is actually the 7th mass media revolution. We started in the 1500s with print. You think about papers and magazines and the child selling newspapers at the corner streets. And then 4 centuries later, we had recording, cinema, and radio coming in and transmitting our lives. In the 50s, we had the magic of the television. I always recall my mom says how magical it was when we brought the first TV in the neighborhood and all the kids came to watch it in our house. And then in the 1990s, you actually have the internet, which gave us infinite access to information. And it's actually hard to imagine, but just 13 years ago, we had mobile coming in. And mobile is just strengthening year over year. Just to give you kind of a quick glimpse about the numbers, every day there are 4.5 new mobile devices sold and babies born. Let me just repeat that for a second. There are 4.5 new mobile devices sold and babies born. In fact, smartphone and tablet are expected to double within the next 4 years. And tablet is just accelerating in growth. So you can actually think about why is mobile so strong? And it's not because of calling. On mobile, content is king. So calling doesn't even come close to the top 10 use cases. People consume news, they do email, web browsing, they watch videos. It's becoming the central social communication tool in our lives. In fact, 2 really amazing stats. 82% of all US adults have a cell phone, and 91% of them always keep it very nearby. So they're always connected and they're always on. There's actually a new definition in the dictionary called nomophobia, which stands for no mobile phone phobia, the fear of having my phone away from me. When you think about a day of a life of a mobile user, you look at 3 platforms. And the user uses all these 3 platforms. There's tablet, there's desktop, and then there's phone. Now, this might be kind of looking like a weird chart, but actually when you dig down to each platform, you can actually see the intrinsic value of every platform by itself. So for desktop, you have the classic 9 to 5. Wake up in the morning, you do your heavy duty work on your desktop, and then back home, and you leave your desktop maybe at the office, or maybe take it home, but it's closed for the rest of the day. When you get to phones, it's actually pretty interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. A lot of us kind of wake up with the bright light of the phone in our eyes, and we go to sleep with the same bright light. So it's always there. It's always on. Tablet has this interesting double hump use case where you have this peak around the morning time, which is mainly around consumption of content in the morning, what we call the coffee time. And then you have the peak around the evening time, which is the couch, where I consume TV and videos and news over my platform. But that really tells the story of an infotainment device. So you can actually see how mobile is changing behavior. Every one of those platforms has a case in our lives. And when you think about those are usually like a lot of interesting use cases. People have talked about truly mobile or mobile first. Those are kind of three big innovations coming from mobile. On the first thing on the left, you actually see this basically passenger on a subway in Korea. He's actually doing shopping just by scanning groceries before he's about to board a train. And by the time he gets home, those groceries will be waiting for him. Then you have the second example of Square, which is a company in San Francisco, which allows you to pay and collect using a mobile device, with or without a credit card. And just recently, Google bought this company called Waze, which allows you to actually have a social GPS. So not only just directions, you can actually get information about accidents along the way or police along the way. You can think about the LinkedIn truly mobile use case. When you take your phone, I can just direct it at you guys, and I'll see your LinkedIn profiles associated with your voices kind of running by me. That's completely doable today. So that's how mobile is changing the world. Let's talk about how mobile is changing LinkedIn. So you might have imagined mobile is tremendously valuable for us. It's like, in fact, the fattest consumer product on LinkedIn today. We're seeing today north of 33% of our traffic of weekly users coming from a mobile device. That number was 8% 2 years ago, and that's the reason I have a panda there, because pandas have this amazing growth rate. They grow from 5 ounces to 60 pounds in their first year. So that's how we see mobile. But with that pace in growth, you actually have to innovate around your product line. So I want to take you to a quick journey back in time. 2010, we had our first app out there. It was somewhat complex. We had 12 utilities. You could choose what you wanted to do, but it wasn't very simple. So we started digging into our users and understanding them better. And we saw that we really had early adopters coming to the app. And those were the word warriors, the salespeople, people on the go that were using the app all the time. So we focused on them. That was the 10% coming to mobile. And basically in August 2011, we launched a new version tailored to them, which was simplified. It had just 4 areas and basically catered to their own experience. Then as you recall before, when you have the coffee and couch chart for tablet, we actually launched a year after a tablet experience. But that was more triggered to a content consumption. It had a magazine layout, so you can kind of flip through articles and shares. But that's how we thought about tablet. And then just 6 months ago, we had our latest and biggest launch yet, which was triggered around 2 inflection points that Brian just talked about just a second before. One thing, the one inflection point was around that we're not just early adopters coming to mobile. We now have mainstream. We have north of 33% of users coming to mobile. So now it's not just the road warrior. It's not just the salespeople. It's actually the engineers, it's the marketers, it's product managers. The second inflection point was how people were using LinkedIn. And that's become every day. So we're known to becoming the place that you go to get a great job. But now it's the place you go to not just to get a job, it's also to become great at what you do today. Getting those professional insights, becoming smarter with your work, with your colleagues, becoming great at what you do. So with that, we focused on having an experience which was personalized to those professionals. And the feed was actually the way to express it. When it's personalized to you, you can see the updates you care most about and the insights you care most about. The innovation didn't just stick to mobile, and we had innovation around a desktop experience as well. One of the nice things that we actually say was kind of redesign the whole desktop experience. So if you actually see the entire portfolio, you can actually see that virtuous innovation cycle, starting with the phone, moving to a tablet, then the desktop, and that's pushing phone again. So every platform was basically learning from the previous platform, but still basically stretching those lines and making even a bigger innovation. And that's how we innovate around our product team. So we talked about how mobile is changing the world, how mobile is changing LinkedIn. Let's talk about how mobile is changing content. And this is a pretty phenomenal chart because that chart was very different a year ago. So an average consumer consumes around 7 hours of media every day. The number 1 platform today for consuming content is phone with 108 minutes. Then number 2 is desktop and laptop, and number 3 is television. That chart had TV at the first place last year. If you even add tablet to it, then together phone and tablet have around 145 minutes a day, which means that mobile devices by themselves have 50% more usage than TV as its own. When you think about how you design for mobile, people like to talk about the small real estate as a disadvantage. It's a challenge. We see it as a challenge, but we also see it as a big advantage. When you really focus on designing for such a small real estate, you want to think exactly what you're going to put in that real estate to be great and to perform the best way possible. So this is an example of a post from Richard Branson about how to hire. As you can see, it has a lot of engagement, almost 900 likes, and almost 100 comments. And that update on desktop will get around 10% of the real estate of the screen, of the pixels. On mobiles, it's very close to 70%. So content is front and center, and it's actually hard to miss. So whenever you have a great piece of content on a mobile device, it actually gets a lot of attention and more engagement than even a desktop device. So with that, if you couple with that with the fact that the average mobile session today lasts around 4.1 minutes, you get that a short attention span, but kind of throughout the day. And you really want to think about how you design for those short periods of time. So just examples from a few companies. You can figure, like Twitter, for example, they focused on 140 characters. The best performing videos on YouTube on mobile are less than 1 minute. Snapchat, which is this up and coming messaging service that allows you to share photos for 5 seconds. And then Vine, which is a video production app from Twitter, basically allows you to produce videos of up to 6 seconds. So that's how those companies are innovating around mobile. When you think about what it means for you guys as talent executives, it's a little bit about how you portray your own content, because a job is also content in the way you think about how a company portrays on mobile as well. For us, for example, we're focusing on innovating around our profile. How can we make a mobile profile look such seamless in a mobile device so it's easy to consume and you don't have to kind of scroll through the whole experience to find information. But it really triggers a lot of innovation and a lot of excitement with how you can push those products further. And the ones that are actually producing the most innovation, they're seeing a better engagement even in desktop. So with that, I want to hand it off to back to Ryan to talk about how content, LinkedIn, and mobile comes together, and how you guys in many ways are first citizens of this revolution.
Thanks, Tomer. So, to recap, we got a ton of content coming into LinkedIn. We're categorizing it in a variety of ways. We're ensuring that we're thinking mobile first in terms of the distribution. I think the last couple parts of this presentation have to do with, how do we think about companies in this ecosystem? And first and foremost, I believe that we think of companies as first-class citizens in this ecosystem. For example, we talked about all those things like channels and how the content comes through, et cetera. We do believe that companies should have the ability to reach consumers in that same way as well with relevant targeted messages. Similar to how a lot of you today use your company status updates to reach your followers, we're in the beginning of testing products that will allow you to reach people outside of that follower base as well. So we're pretty excited about that. I think even more importantly, we think about a product like SlideShare, or a platform like SlideShare. Content marketing is so important and so big right now, and I think that SlideShare is probably one of the most important platforms on the internet for content marketing. The ability for someone or a company or a person to upload a presentation here and reach a massive audience is super easy. There's a couple ways to do this. You see on the left here, we have someone like Oppenheimer Funds who just goes straight out there. This is basically an advertisement. Here's our fund, here's how it works, et cetera. But I also kind of like the more nuanced ways that on the right-hand side, someone like Zappos does. They uploaded a deck about their company culture, which has been viewed over 75,000 times. And I assure you, if you read through that deck, you want to learn more about company culture, et cetera, you're going to leave there with 3 thoughts. 1, Zappos is an amazing company. 2, I want to buy products from them. And 3, I want to work there. That kind of nuanced sense of content marketing is, I think, what platforms like SlideShare and LinkedIn are really good to do to ensure that people get your message in relevant places. So to kind of sum it up, we just talked a lot about the LinkedIn consumer story, engaging millions of consumers, frequently on a daily basis. And the question comes back to, how does that matter to a room full of talent executives? Well, first and foremost, as you can all imagine, you want LinkedIn to have a ton of people on the platform with a ton of data. Increasing that talent pool is vital to your success. We all talk a lot about passive candidates. But by nature, if LinkedIn is simply a job site, you are not going to attract passive candidates. Passive candidates, by nature, do not go to a job site. However, we do know that every professional consumes some sort of content on a daily basis professionally about their company, their competition, their industry, their job function, et cetera. So as LinkedIn becomes more of that place that people start in the beginning of their day to check the news, to get updated, to see what's going on, or on their mobile device when they have 5 minutes to go between a meeting and they want to see what's going on, LinkedIn starts to become more of that DNA. And what happens when that occurs? Well, first and foremost, these users will visit LinkedIn much more frequently. On the bottom left of this chart is the number of unique visitors we had in Q1 2011 when we roughly started our content initiatives. We had about 75 million people who visited LinkedIn every quarter. On the far right is our Q2 2013 number, where 143 million people visited LinkedIn that quarter. Why? Because they come back and they see something that's more relevant for them to be visiting on a daily basis. Not just when I want to find a job or when I update my profile, but I go there every day for the news and insights to make me better. When people come back more frequently too, they spend more time on the platform. They do things like update their profile more often. When I come to LinkedIn to read one of those Richard Branson articles and I say, you know what? I just realized my profile's out of date. Let me make sure I add some more of those fields or add some of that rich content to my profile. That makes these profiles so much richer as well. When people come back to LinkedIn more frequently on a daily basis, they connect more and invite more people to join LinkedIn. That's how we have nearly 2 members joining a second, or 238 million members on the platform. So fundamentally, these efforts that we have in this daily engagement really results in our ability to provide you with world-class solutions for finding talent on LinkedIn because these people are using the platform so aggressively. And most importantly, we're doing it against the second part of that mission statement. We're doing it while making the world's professionals more productive and successful. That's all that Tomer and I have for you. Hopefully that was useful. And if there's any questions at all we can answer for anything, we'd be happy to do that now. So let us know. How is this going so well? Why is this so awesome? Any of those easy questions? No? Oh, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, how many, what's the average time of LinkedIn users go on LinkedIn per week, per month? Do you have a sense of that? And so what is the frequency in terms of a month time? And then how long, once they're there, do they stay on?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. You know, both Tomer and I spent a lot of time in consumer internet, and you know, I can remember, I worked at Yahoo a long time ago, and that metric, that concept of like time on site was such like a killer thing that we tried to optimize for because we're really trying to optimize against the media business. In this case, we actually look at it a little bit differently. So this notion of time on site is not something that we pay a lot of attention to because we fundamentally believe that we don't really want people to be coming to LinkedIn to stick around a long time. When you have 5 minutes between a meeting, we want you to turn your mobile device, get the information you need really quickly, and move on with your professional life. So we actually don't pay attention to that metric at all. I mean, what we do pay attention to a lot is kind of what you mentioned before, which is kind of the unique users visiting and the repeat usage that they visit. So we're seeing kind of both up and to the right charts on both of those things. Like we saw in that public Comscore chart, 143 million people visited LinkedIn in Q2. And you can imagine that with a news use case, they're visiting it much more frequently. Do you want anything else to that?
Right there.
Anyone else? It's okay.
So I just came from the session talking about in-mailing on mobile. And I think it's interesting comparing these two sessions, or pairing these two sessions, and thinking about how now you have 33% of your users coming to LinkedIn through the mobile app. So how are you thinking about in-mails and the fact that a lot of us as recruiters think it's really valuable that we can reach people through in-mails, and now they're probably going to be viewing those on the app?
Yeah, so when it comes to emails, I completely agree. I think in many ways, if you just take a step back and you look at the macro level, there's around, just look at email and open rate around the industry, you have more than 51% of all emails being open on a mobile device. I think when it comes to for mobile consumption and how you see open rate and click rate on mobile, that's something we look at closely as well on a mobile device as well. And what we actually are very happy with is with the open rate and click rates on emails and just messages in general when it comes to LinkedIn. And the same for email on mobile. So that's actually a great point because when you, content in many ways is not just how it portrays on the app itself, because content comes for your email and for your messages as well. So how you put your headline and what's the first 3 sentences you have in your either email or your email actually makes a lot of difference. So for us, that's something we actually been iterating on, been focusing on, and we're actually very excited with what the open rate and click rate we have on mobile, which is even in many ways performing much better than we expected.
Right, Isabel, it sounds like then you're still expecting people to be opening those in-mails on their email and not through the platform or through an app itself.
Well, they can open they get their email as well, but they can also open this for a mobile through the app itself. And you can think about the app beyond just the email, why it's also pretty exciting. Desktop doesn't have what we call push notifications. So in many ways today on the phone, it's very close to an SMS. We can tell you, hey, you just got an email from a person, might be a recruiter. That usually appears on top of your screen. And there is, as you might imagine, there's a high engagement level with those push notifications, much bigger than you would see with an email notification. So those are getting as close as possible to an SMS, which by far has the highest open rate in the industry. So I would say mobile in that perspective also presents a great opportunity and a great place to actually innovate even better.
Anything else? Yep. Yeah, so it's definitely our vision that, your LinkedIn profile is more than what you just put on there, but it's actually the things that you've accomplished and done as well, as evidenced through the content. So it's definitely our long-term vision to ensure that, if someone has put up some great stuff on their profile that's content specific, that shows you better who that person is and what they can do better, that stuff is discoverable in all the places where you reach someone out.
You can also think about how it kind of ranks the person up. If they're getting high visibility because of their code snippets that they uploaded, or because of their presentations on mobile, or content, or product management, and so on, you can think how that will kind of rank them up in the search algorithm as well.
Great. Anything else? All right, you guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.